Welcome to Intuitive Astrology with Molly McCord. Thank you so much for joining me today as we're going to take a look at the astrological energies of November 5th until November 12th. This week, we're going to see Uranus retrograde re-enter Taurus, Mercury station retrograde, Jupiter station retrograde, Venus enters Scorpio, and we're just coming off of the energy of the Taurus full moon. So there is a lot transpiring right now in the depths of Scorpio season. We will cover all of that and more in today's show. So do keep in mind that as we move through this phase, Scorpio season is actually here to make you uncomfortable, to invite you into more of the depths of your own consciousness, of your own world, of your own emotions. Scorpio energy is fixed water and it can churn. It can be really intense and uncertain. It can dig into parts of yourself that you haven't seen or haven't met, at least in a long time. And this is all part of the gifts of Scorpio energy, where we're guided into more of our hidden selves. We meet our shadow selves along the way. We venture into our own mysteries, parts of our internal world that we haven't fully experienced. And when we're in this dance of the Scorpio themes, we also then start to feel it and sense it in other people. And Scorpio is an energy of connection, relational energies that seek more understanding and a desire to get to the heart of what's going on, not only within yourself, but within others around you. Now, keep in mind, if you have natal placements in Scorpio, then this is all normal to you. We're just going through how you move through life regularly, how you feel things beyond what you can even describe, how you naturally seek depth, passion, and truth in your encounters, and how you also sense, without even having to say a word, when things are off, when there's more that's being hidden below the surface, when information is being kept or withheld, or when the full story is not presenting itself. So these are all some of the themes that we venture through during Scorpio season. But there definitely seems to be more intensity right now, especially here in 2025, which is a year that's been designed to push us further, to take us out of comfort zones. In other words, this year has been about discomfort, and it's been showing us more of where we're ready to evolve and change, as well as what we're ready to leave behind because of our own evolutionary process. I feel that Scorpio season is more intense this year. It also coincides with what we discussed last Wednesday about Three-Eye Atlas coming through and stirring up more ascension symptoms, perhaps feeling like you're really ungrounded. The energies are more potent and alive. Maybe you're feeling it come through in your sleep, or even just as you navigate through the day. I know that in my world, I have been at capacity. Every day has been so busy. There's been so much going on. A lot of creativity is unfolding, but I've had a lot of meetings, a lot of conversations, interactions. It's just been nonstop. And the intensity is interesting to observe because we're being pushed to our limits in order for our limits to expand. Okay, so it's not as if our energy limits have a full stop. Rather, it's a bit moving into a new experience of energies that we've been working with, almost like how much more can I carry or how much more can I integrate? And maybe you hit what you thought was a previous limit only to realize, no, I've got this. I'm able to venture outside what I had defined as my limits. And now I can see my own expansion, my own growth, my own abilities now to hold more energy, but I see it as very light energy. It feels more crystalline. It has a purity to it that also makes it feel quite light. So simply trust if this resonates with you. But what I'm seeing in terms of these energetic dynamics here that are coming through during the intensity of Scorpio season is that Scorpio season invites us into the depths of ourselves. But at this time, there's also more guiding light. There's more energy presenting itself that can be reassuring, hopeful, enlightening, empowering, that reminds you this transformation is right on time. And so whatever is coming through for you at this time that is intense, that is maybe churning through you or is really emotional, there's something that you're being promised to trust through this phase of the journey, which is always part of Scorpio season. Now, it could be something that you're meant to examine that is a specific fear or a particular topic that's being presented. And what I'm seeing is that it's important to focus in on what this is for you, because there could be tendrils to it, right? It could have roots. It could go in some surprising directions. But what you're addressing is the core of the fear. And as I say that, as I energetically look at the core of a fear with tendrils extending from it, it looks like what's happening that can be quite surprising is that there is energy dissolving that fear as part of the transformation. It's transmuting it. It feels like the energies are being transmuted and dissolved. And they're also working with how we can feel that time is dissolving. Are you feeling that too? That the concept of time is becoming more and more bizarre, and you lose track of the days, or you lose track of the hours in a day, that we're just not as grounded in the time-space continuum as we used to be. That's also been one of the main influences here of 2025. And so this Scorpio season is especially strong and powerful in revealing what we can trust in letting go of. And that's because of the strong influence of both Saturn and Neptune retrograde back in Pisces, that we are meant to be clearing out our old limitations and fears that are actually no longer influencing us. It's almost like something could feel like it's on the other side of the window. It's on the other side of a boundary. Like it just can't touch you. It can't get to you. You're not feeling it. You're not even affected by it. And then it just keeps dissolving and moving further away. And it's interesting that I'm getting this visual of a window, because I feel that this window is also a very clear timeline boundary where there are people that you're just not even affected by. You just don't even feel them, right? Like they could be doing all their games, all their tactics, putting a lot of energy into manipulation, and it just doesn't affect you. It just can't even reach you because there's such a huge chasm in the energies right now that they're really far apart. They're really different. They can't mix, right? They can't even touch. And that's part of what needs to be honored at this time, where you continue on your path and wish others well on their path. But that's one of the themes that 2025 has been about. And I think it's becoming very clear and powerfully seen in Scorpio season. And as I'm feeling into this energy, the depths and even the darkness that we move through during Scorpio, it all serves a purpose because there is gold to be discovered. There are new intuitive gifts and new levels of awakening that only reside in Scorpio season. And so as we move through this time of year, we then are met with the full moon, which was exact on November 5th at 13 degrees of Taurus. It is a super full moon, which means it's even more impactful and it's closer to the earth, affecting the tides even more. But in the earth sign of Taurus, it brings about where we're seeking calm and security amongst the big changes and uncertainties that are unfolding right now. With this Taurus full moon, super full moon, you're being asked to stabilize your core self and to make your peace a priority, which can be easier said than done, especially this week, because the transiting aspects of this week are quite contentious and dynamic. But the Taurus full moon could be revealing to you what your core energy needs, where you're ready to ground in and stabilize even more, and where you can trust that you won't be swept up by the changes that are happening now, because this is a year that's meant to change us permanently. That's what's meant to be unfolding here. And it is, right? Like we can look back on all the drastic changes that have unfolded in 2025, which have been right on time and which have been messages I've been discussing since the beginning of the year. And so astrology prepares us for this. We've known this is a year of big permanent changes. And as I've been discussing and sharing since the beginning of this year, we knew jobs would be ending and that there would be a lot of job losses unfolding. There's going to be jobs this year, especially this holiday season, that never come back, that we're never going to see again. They are being phased out permanently and completely. A lot of this is also coinciding with the South Node in Virgo, which is revealing what is outdated and isn't designed to keep pace with the faster moving technology advancements that are streaming into all areas of our lives. And what has been stirring up a lot of uncertainty here in 2025 is leading to more solid new beginnings in 2026, which reminds me to tell you that I now have my full 2026 Soul Growth Astrology program available for you. 14 videos discussing the major astrology of 2026, including the 3 Mercury retrogrades in water signs, Venus retrograde in Scorpio and Libra, 2 Venus star points in 2026. Plus, we look at Black Moon Lilith and what she's going to be bringing up in 2026 and a lot more. But I think one of the biggest themes of 2026 is going to be on finances and living within your means. What does that mean to live within your means? And that's going to be a big deal because in 2026, Chiron is going to get to 0 degrees of Taurus. And this is an initiation degree into the wounds that Chiron in Taurus is going to open up starting in 2026. But I feel it directly relates to right now. It directly relates to Scorpio season and fears that are arising and being felt, especially around the energy of security, stability, finances, investments, possessions, salary, and how we essentially stabilize our lives. This is the time to look at these areas of your life because this is where you want to look at what you can powerfully change based on your own personal choices, intuition, the practicalities of your life, and make these necessary changes sooner than later. And one of the reasons why I'm bringing up this theme is because not only am I looking at what's to come in 2026, but I'm looking at right now and how not only do we have Mercury retrograde in Scorpio starting on November 9th, but we also have Uranus retrograde re-entering Taurus on November 7th. There's going to be more instability in the job markets, in the financial markets, and in the economy. These energies are continuing into at least the first 4 months of 2026, but we've already been in them. We've already been figuring it out and making decisions and choices that are best based on our individual circumstances. But I believe that now things are going to become even more wild and that this Mercury retrograde is going to show you more of what needs to be cut out, reduced, eliminated, and removed, especially because Mercury is going to have an ongoing opposition to Uranus, and this is instability, disruptions, surprises. So that's meant to be an overview here of what we're going to continue to move through in Scorpio season, where whatever fears you're facing, they're asking you to make some very powerful choices that maybe you're resisting. Maybe you don't want to accept it, or you've been putting it off, but there's things that are meant to be dissolving that we have overly attached to. And that can mean you've overly attached to a fear that's keeping you locked into place. It could mean that you've overly attached to a belief system or a limitation that no longer needs to exist in your life. So if you can look at what is arising for you and what might be preventing you from letting go, this is a perfect time to ask for that support because again, in the bigger picture of things, 2025 is meant to be a year of letting go of more than maybe we anticipated or even thought was possible. But that's part of how the new world is continuing to come in. We're moving between these new eras of energies, and it's hard to fathom, especially on a daily basis. But the bigger picture is not everything can come with you. It won't fit. It's not a match. It's not the correct frequency. And so we're meant to set ourselves free, but this could be a time period when you're going through a lot of turmoil about that, almost like wrestling with your intuition, which is not an easy place to be in. But there's messages here that are also showing you that there's going to be a higher expression, a higher version of something. And again, getting back to where I'm seeing that crystalline light that's very pure and it's dancing and dazzling and it's very sparkly. It's meant to remind you that everything is meant to transform. Everything can elevate into a higher frequency and experience, but we've got to be fearless here. There's things that we've got to face. There's a lot of courage involved with Scorpio energy, determination, dedication, tenacity. Yeah, let's bring in some tenacity here to face what needs to be dealt with and to not let it hold you back. Now, after that Taurus full moon on November 5th, Mars in Sagittarius sextiles Pluto, now direct in Aquarius at 1 degree 30 minutes. So this is actually a lovely sextile for a few reasons. First of all, you have the two co-rulers of Scorpio season, bringing in some clear, determined action, expansive ideas. There's a sense here of ready to move something forward that's been calling to you at a soul level. So when you have the two co-rulers of the sun interacting positively, it's definitely supporting the forward directions that you're ready to take. The other thing that I find fascinating about this particular sextile is that now Mars and Pluto are working together after being in that contentious opposition that we talked about starting last November. So a year ago, Mars and Pluto were opposing each other. Pluto was back in Capricorn, Mars was in Cancer, very uncomfortable, argumentative, destructive energies. So now let's fast forward here to this November. And what is aligning based on a higher vision you have for your life? That now Mars in Sag is ready to go. Mars in Sagittarius is very adventurous, inspired, freedom-loving. There's a big picture focus that's coming into play. It's the energy of YOLO, you only live once. There's a sense of, I'm ready to make this happen. I want to put some moves into this dream, so let's go. Now Mars is still in an opposition to Uranus, which is explosive, disruptive, high tension, a lot of electricity in the air, a lot moving through the collective field. But Mars sextiling Pluto is a way to redirect whatever you're feeling into a higher timeline. That's one of the ways I'm feeling this energy, that Mars is redirecting us into higher timelines for our best and highest good, allowing you to leave behind anything that no longer resonates or supports where you're going, especially the rest of this decade. So I'm feeling that there's strong turning points that we are definitely moving through. That could be part of the ascension symptoms you are navigating through, and which honestly are going to continue. Ascension symptoms can be anything from disrupted sleep, feeling very ungrounded, being starving and then not hungry at all, having extremes in your energy field where you're very energized and then completely wiped out. You could be sensing that you need a lot of water, that your body is processing a lot of energy. You could wonder if you're feeling sick or catching a cold and it's just your body adjusting to these new incoming frequencies. Now on the same day, November 6th, that Mars sextiles Pluto, Venus enters Scorpio, and she's going to stay in Scorpio until December 1st. Venus moves from one of her home signs of Libra, where she is social, friendly, interactive, inquisitive, savvy, indecisive, and seeking balance. These are some of her expressions in Libra. Now she enters into Scorpio, which is known as being one of the astrology signs that she is known for being her strongest in. It's often said that Venus is in detriment in Scorpio, and while I understand how that is part of the dialect here in astrology, I believe that every planet in any sign has their higher and lower expressions, that it's more about the consciousness that you're at and you're embodying, and that as long as you are conscious of how that Venus in Scorpio expresses its needs, you can work with it more powerfully and be in a place of knowing the best of Venus in Scorpio. She knows passion. She knows deep love. She knows what it's like to face her own fears in her highest expression. She's willing to go there in saying whatever she needs. And it is intense because she's not here to experience love in a balanced or intellectual way. So as Venus moves into Scorpio, there is more here that we deeply feel and we tune into. Emotions become ramped up. There can be a desire for more privacy, which makes her more mysterious. Venus in Scorpio can have a very strong attachment style, which is connected to her desire for commitment and loyalty, but it also can make her more possessive and jealous. Venus in Scorpio is also going to bring about our fears around connecting with others, where we don't want to be vulnerable or too open, and what that means to truly trust another, especially with your real feelings and your heart. Now, as Venus enters Scorpio, she's going to have an immediate square to Pluto in Aquarius on November 7th. And this is a big deal because there's something here that feels really uncomfortable right now. And this does play into what I was saying around finances, also brings in love, relationships, what you value, what you own. The square to Pluto means something has to change, something has to transform. And there's this immediate tension, and these are happening in the fixed signs, which don't want to change, don't want to compromise, and don't want to budge. But the square to Pluto means that Pluto is going to be more powerful. And so this Venus in Scorpio has to give up something, but she might have her fingernails deeply embedded in it. She's holding on tight. Pluto is challenging her values, her possessions, and her fears. Pluto in Aquarius is asking you to detach and look at the long-term perspective. What is really going to serve you and your future self that maybe is challenging you and your emotional core at this time? And these are intense issues. This goes into what I was saying as well about meeting these fears right now. This is part of the energy signature that Venus in Scorpio has to deal with right away. So again, this is exact November 7th, and it could be that something is brought forward around power dynamics, manipulation tactics, trust issues, facing a truth, an uncomfortable truth, a financial insight. And that's because Venus in Scorpio can be heavily focused on money. So if we were to go into the lower octaves of Scorpio here, when money is involved, people will do anything to win. They will go to extremes. They will be greedy, have controlling actions. They will destroy others or attempt to destroy other people with false accusations and attacks in order to get the money, to make money, anything for money. That can be one of these lower sinister expressions of Scorpio, basically playing dirty to obtain a desired financial outcome. That's all part of the energy right now in the lower expressions. And then because it's a fixed sign, there's the energy of not letting go, keeping it going in order to remain in control, continue to perpetuate a false narrative. All of this is the realms of master manipulators. And these games last as long as people can be manipulated. That's a core requirement, that people can be manipulated. And that is one thing that the Scorpio energy will desire. So this is a time to look around and determine how well you're trusting yourself when something doesn't feel accurate, true, or right, when something feels off. This could be a very important theme right now, because when I look at these transiting energies, we're meant to be facing some truths that are uncomfortable, but it's only by facing them that we can truly see them for what they are, transform them, and make new decisions going forward. And as I look at how the energy plays out this week, we also have the sun getting to 15 degrees of Scorpio on November 7th, trining the North Node in Pisces. And when the sun is at 15 degrees of Scorpio, that is a world point degree. It's known as a cross-quarter celebration point, and it means that issues are more pronounced. They are more viewable and seen on the world stage, and they make more of a global impact. And so this occurs in the middle of the fixed signs. So this is a week when very big issues are coming to the forefront around these lower Scorpio themes, where people are going to see things for what they are, see people for who they really are, understand more of the calculations and games that have been playing out, more of the master manipulator tactics. This is where the depths of Scorpio also reveals the complexities of the human psyche, because it's really typical for a lot of people who are empaths, light workers. You're very caring, you're a healer, you're kind, you want to help people, you want to assist them. It's very hard to understand people on the other side of the spectrum who want to destroy, who want to attack, even permanently end people, permanently remove them from this reality. But it's being able to see the truth in whatever shape or form that exists in and then to work with that truth and transform it. And so one of the beautiful things about Scorpio season is that as we meet the lower realms, we can send in the higher frequencies. We can balance out more of these darker forces and darker energies by calling in more love and more light. And I know that it's overused, it's totally overused phrase, but it truly means something. It means that there's energy here that can drastically transform. And that's something that Scorpio energy does. It magnetizes in higher versions of that energy. So this could be a week of a lot of powerful transformations that does include destruction and collapses. And then it also brings in elevations and release. Extremes are heightened right now, in other words. And that is part of the work of Scorpio energies and what we're moving through at this time on the planet. So as that sun moves across 15 degrees of Scorpio and trines the North Node in Pisces, there is more hope that arrives, more spiritual support, more enlightenment. I also feel this is an activation of intuitive messages where you're just going to sense or feel something very brightly and very clearly, perhaps. This is occurring at 15 degrees of Scorpio, 15 degrees of Pisces. So if you have planets or points around this degree point in the water signs, there's beautiful support here for moving forward, moving on, and being complete at an emotional level around anything you've been working on or working through. Getting back to that visual I mentioned earlier of that fear dissolving, of even the tendrils phasing out. The sun in Scorpio trining the North Node in Pisces can help with that as you emotionally clear out whatever that core imprint might have been. This is where the divine is present. The divine is streaming in higher consciousness and loving support. Also on November 7th, Uranus retrograde re-enters Taurus, and I'm going to do a separate Monday podcast episode for you on this topic. I know I've been discussing this for a number of years now, and this is going to be a culminating turning point as Uranus completes its time in Taurus, starting this week into late April 2026. This is big completion energy, and I want to be able to give it the focus it deserves. So I'll be discussing that more on Monday's show. Now, also over this next week, we have Mercury stationing retrograde at 6 degrees 52 minutes of Sagittarius on November 9th at 2:01 p.m. Eastern Time. I just did the Monday podcast episode for you on this topic, going into more of the effects and what is being deeply investigated here during this particular Mercury retrograde. Mercury starts the retrograde journey there at nearly 7 degrees of Sagittarius and journeys back to 20 degrees of Scorpio in your chart. So you want to identify where these degrees are for you in your chart, because this is where you will be working with Mercury retrograde November 9th until November 29th. It's the house or houses where you have these degree points that Mercury is asking you to slow down, review, reprioritize, reconsider, loosen up your expectations, expect delays, cancellations, and changes. As always, during a retrograde cycle, it's not a good time to initiate anything new. Rather, it's time to revisit what you have forgotten or what's been postponed. Look at things that have already been in motion, allow yourself to revisit them, and determine what stays and what goes. Now, we live in the real world and things don't just slow down or stop during Mercury retrograde. So if there's matters that present themselves that are new that you have to address or take care of, it's just important to go slow with them, double check the details, make sure nothing is forgotten or withheld, especially with Mercury and Scorpio. Make sure everything is being fully presented. And actually, it's wiser to assume that it's not, that there's going to be things that come about after Mercury stations direct. So even if you have to take care of things during Mercury retrograde, just know that you'll often have to come back to them later in December, even into January. Now, also over this week, Jupiter stations retrograde on November 11th. This occurs at 25 degrees of Cancer. Jupiter will travel back to 15 degrees of Cancer until March 10th. This is Jupiter's annual 4-month retrograde cycle that occurs every year. And this is also interesting because Jupiter is going retrograde over territory that Mars in Cancer previously visited and was previously retrograde too. So you might have some interesting things coming up wherever you have the second half of Cancer in your chart. So 15 degrees of Cancer to 25 degrees of Cancer is where Jupiter has been showing you more about your own emotional growth, what you're seeing in a new light, what you're taking forward, how you're learning from the past. Jupiter in Cancer is bringing up our connections and attachments to others. It brings in what we really feel in our heart space, what we need. Jupiter seeks to show us more that we didn't previously understand. Jupiter is about how we learn and grow. And so this makes matters bigger in the Cancer areas of your chart. So then when we think about these themes and we apply it to where Mars in Cancer was previously retrograde, you could be feeling more of the blessings coming through now based on what you were moving through at the beginning of this year. So Mars was in Cancer retrograde. We talked about that a lot on this podcast, and he was really churning in the past. He was really fighting something and triggered and deeply embedded in matters that could have felt like they were taking you into previous timelines. These can be issues related to family and loved ones, your home, your safe space, your emotional foundation, where you seek privacy, and where you go at the end of the day to relax, just to name a few themes. But Jupiter retrograde now through the same territory in your chart is going to bring your attention to matters you didn't see before and bring in new layers for you to integrate and feel. There's a lot of feeling here that's internalized with Jupiter retrograde in Cancer. This may mean that you need more space to process or reconsider or sit with something. Maybe there's more that you're working through at deeper layers, and you're seeing the bigger picture of something. And that's ultimately what Jupiter wants to offer you as it moves through each astrology sign. What's the bigger picture here that you've been learning and understanding around your emotional worlds and your belief around your emotional world? Jupiter loves those belief systems. So what have you been feeling that no longer serves you? It's no longer in alignment with your belief systems, and you're ready to mature it and responsibly evolve it. Now, I want to note that with both Mercury and Jupiter stationing retrograde within a few days of each other, Mercury does so November 9th, Jupiter does so November 11th, it can be easier to just pause with these energies, to be more receptive, to listen to what is echoing through your body, your mind, your emotional world, to listen to what is grabbing your attention for you to understand. And that's because as Mercury stations retrograde in Sagittarius, Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter. So there's really big understandings here that we are meant to feel and connect with. And it might be that it's only by stopping and standing still that you're able to truly receive and hear what those messages may be. There could be some serious aha moments. At the same time, Mars makes a conjunction here to Mercury, stationing retrograde at 6 degrees of Sagittarius, and Mars is going to amplify the megaphone. There's going to be a loud message, something that you can't ignore. You're feeling it, you're sensing it. There's movement with Mars and Sagittarius, but there's also something here that could be triggered that is ultimately a catalyst. Information comes out, big declarations are made, grand actions are taken. But since this Mercury is stationing retrograde, there is a cautionary warning here to really think it through, to think through something before you move ahead, before you take action on it, even if you're feeling really restless around it. There can be more accidents when you have both Mercury retrograde and Mars conjunct, especially since both relate to transportation in your immediate environment, as well as running, because Sagittarius is the sign of the long distance runner. So just a heads up there that accidents are heightened, especially when Mercury stations retrograde conjunct Mars in a fire sign. If you're thinking, maybe I'll run to work, the astrology would suggest otherwise. Now, the energies this week are basically all over the place, right? Like you're probably listening to this being like, well, what do I focus on? What is the hierarchy of energies when you have all these different transiting events happening? Well, keep in mind that Mercury retrograde is affecting daily matters. Mercury, the messenger, is about business, transactions, commerce, communication, transportation. learning, studying. I know you get the gist, but that's going to be more of an ongoing concern here over a certain number of weeks. And then Mercury stations direct and things improve. Mercury is going to have ongoing oppositions to Uranus, which makes the energy have more of a spike, and there will be greater effects on the masses during this Mercury retrograde. It's going to be more memorable. There can be more things that are affecting our bigger systems, including the grid, electrical systems, networks, the internet, cell service. All these broad scale communications could have some big events and developments during this Mercury retrograde. So that's going to be an energy that simply persists. The more that you can slow down and be mindful of it, as well as watch for any aggravation or triggers and to take care of yourself as they arise, that's just going to be part of what we move through here in November. I think Venus energy is strong this week as she moves into Scorpio and then squares Pluto. So that's going to bring up some matters around your finances and just things we already discussed, right? That are coming up to your awareness around what to do next. What's the next best decision for the future? Now, we're having time to work through these themes and energies until we get to the Scorpio new moon on November 19th. So we will talk about that in a few weeks. But just know that this is a time period here to figure out what is truly empowering for me in my lifestyle. What do I need to get rid of? Where do I need to say no? What do I need to remove? And those are some of the themes here of Scorpio energy. So even though the intensity can be quite strong, it's ultimately guiding you to some new solutions and choices, especially in the Scorpio areas of your chart. Now, at a personal level, if any of these planets are working with your natal chart by conjunction, that's going to be more of a direct influence on you and your experience. The conjunctions are usually the most intense because they bring your attention to matters of that sign and those planets. So if anything we've discussed here is working with you through a conjunction, you're going to be feeling that as more of your bigger personal experience. 2026 is less than 2 months away, which is so wild to state, but it's true. So this is also a great time to look at what is ahead for you in the new year, as we're going to have the outer planets advancing. We're going to have Saturn move into Aries, where it will stay until April 2028. We have eclipse season happening in February and March of 2026. Plus, we begin the year with a Venus star point. So all of this is ready for you and available to understand in your chart in my new 2026 Soul Growth Astrology program. I'm so excited to release this and make it available for you. I know that so many of you rely upon this information to help you plan your year ahead. We're going to look at the upcoming Mercury retrogrades, of course, the Venus retrograde, and so much more. So please check out this new program. I do have it on sale for you too, just so more people can access the information and take advantage of this wealth of astrology information. It's designed for you to come back to and visit throughout the year. I've been doing this program every year since 2020, and this version of it has 14 videos covering the main astrology of 2026. So I'll put a link below the podcast here so you can click over and check it out. Be sure and use the coupon code, and you can get the full program for only $44 for a limited time. And I also just want to acknowledge and give a shout out to all of you who have been sending me such beautiful messages and kind thoughts and such great feedback. This is such an incredible community of people. I am so grateful for each of you and what you contribute, and just to know you, just to meet you even, and to hear more about the work you're doing in the world. And I just want to acknowledge that because, yes, I'm busy and so are you, but I truly value how we come together to discuss this astrology and then how our paths cross and just everything you so beautifully share with me. So thank you for your messages, emails, your comments, everything you bring forward into this community. It really matters. It's very special. And I just want you to know that I appreciate you. So thank you for everything you give me, but I hope I can at least give it back in the same way with deep reverence for your talents and gifts as well. So wishing you a beautiful journey here as we continue through these Scorpio energies and themes. As always, I'll be back every Monday and Wednesday for a new podcast episode, and we will continue discussing what is coming up for us on our soul growth journeys at this time. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you back here soon.